everybody. You're going to be seeing this critique being finished up in a bit of a different way. I'm just going to respond this way, just keeping the video playing and stopping, just like an EFAP, only you're not going to see any background footage unless I can find a way to superimpose this onto a game background. So, it's been a while since I've done my last video response to Jack Saint, and since then, Jack's acted like a little bitch once again to MauLer. And oh boy, it's even got to the point where Jack decided to finally seclude himself into his echo chamber for good on MauLer and decided to block him, after MauLer said he had a good heart. So yeah, Jack Saint, he killed any and all credibility he had left. He just killed it. He just threw it out of the goddamn airlock and let it get sucked out into space to be destroyed and turned into interstellar dust. So Jack Saint will have no real kind words for me to say for him for the rest of this critique, and maybe even to other things, because I might respond to his Sakai High take. Because, yeah, that take is probably as stupid as it sounds, and I really do want to talk about it. But yeah, so here we go. We're going to respond to the rest of Jack Saint's fucking stupid ass video on MauLer. Let's get into it. Let's hope I don't die this time.
That have nothing to do with his analysis of the work, thoughtlessly calls out as criticisms parts of said work which are perfectly in line with the narrative and logic of that world, or straight up makes up plot holes.
Can you give me an example of where he makes up a plot hole? I haven't seen an example of you actually really contradicting much of any of his points at all with actual stuff detailed from the plots of certain movies, except that maybe one point from Captain America from the last video, and that's it. I ain't seen that much. Can you give examples? I know you don't want to make the video over an hour long because you don't like the long men, but dude, it would make some sense if you either detailed some points in your notes and you could explain them in a couple seconds, or put stuff in the description of the video saying, hey, there's some stuff that MauLer was wrong about, here's some more detailed explanations that I couldn't fit in the video because I was already making it too long to begin with. You could do something like that, but instead you didn't.
And not because it's offering him the chance of a deeper analysis. Once again, we get a shallow reading in which a man on the internet angrily explains things in a film that may or not be bad, may or may not come with an argument as to why they're bad, but certainly if you listen to the tone of his voice, we know how he feels.
What the fuck? What the fuck, you dumbass movie?
It's just...
So what? That's like the whole point of his rages. These are his rages. These are clips from his rages where he's getting pissed off. Okay? You go to his critiques and he's far more calm. Watch any of his other videos before he even started going into movies, and you will see he portrays himself as a very calm person. It's just when he got to The Last Jedi, he got really pissed. And then people liked what he did with The Last Jedi, so after he did his critique where he did stuff with a calmer attitude, he decided, you know what, I should make this into a thing because people really seem to like it. You know, that's what happens when you strike gold. Alright, there's a thing like that. Okay? Like, seriously? And once again, you're not explaining what is wrong with him doing that. Okay, people, once again, have been critiquing stuff like this with passionate devotion for a long damn time, especially on YouTube. People have gotten famous just solely maybe criticizing one or two works. Alright? Like, is red letter media not a thing? Yes, I don't agree with them with every single thing they spout, but they do make some good points on a lot of issues. Alright? So, can you please give me some examples of how this stuff is bad for discourse in the movies? Please? Can you? I guess not.
Oh, here's a long, boring summary of what happens in movie, and I pick out things in this that make it bad. It's really important they ride rhinos in Wakanda. Movie loses points for that. In this movie, doesn't matter if the villain's motivations are entirely inconsistent. Thing good, thing bad.
I really like people who are definitive and they have strong evidence. That shit's gold. It's like, yes, you put in the work. Instead of just going, well, if you look at this over here, from this angle, in this way, and then look at this part in the film as well, then it's pretty good, right? It's like,
We can
In what way is this bad? You're not explaining yourself. Okay, you're straw manning his points again, and you're describing it in such a grossly shallow way. You're just trying to make him seem like all he does is just everything is like a bad faith thing. You're the one that's doing stuff in bad faith. Bad faith. You're not actually trying to understand him. Alright? And now we're going to get to probably Eric's best section. It's either this one or the one where he goes shirtless. But yeah, Eric has been the one that's been doing stuff better than you throughout this whole video, Jack. It's honestly really pathetic. And once again, I am not seeing anything. I am not seeing a damn thing that you have brought up in any of this video, any part of this video, that has actually made me think that MauLer doesn't understand criticism, doesn't understand what he's doing in the context of his own work, and doesn't understand what's going on in other works that he's criticizing. You're not presenting yourself in a very good light, Jack. Like, please. You should have stopped this. You should have stopped this at any moment in the video and realized, maybe I screwed up. How about I don't finish this video, and how about I actually try to have a discussion with MauLer about the issues? But no, instead you wanted to be an asshole.
Insult MauLer's content all we like, but I don't really see that much value in just dunking on someone.
Says the one who routinely dunks on MauLer all the fucking time on Twitter by whining like a little bitch.
Like, there has to be at least a bit of insight. So with that in mind, I'd like to bring your attention to a certain timestamp. It's 52 minutes and 20 seconds into part 3 of MauLer's critique of The Last Jedi. I mention this part because that's when he's done explaining the entire film in excruciating detail. But you might be wondering, how does he continue talking for an hour after that when he's done explaining the movie? Well, as it turns out, like, that's the good part. Like, the first 4 hours was just a massive lumbering preamble.
Lumbering preamble is a really stupid way to describe 4 hours of detailing the stuff going on with the plot and showing things that are stupid with the plot and why things going on with the characters in the plot is retarded. You know, there's a lot of stuff, once again, that they just do not either care for that was actually in there, or they don't want to say it to make their argument seem better, because, yes, the first 4 hours is a plot summary, but there's details that he is going over within the plot summary. Alright, do you not get that? Do you not get that? He talks about the plot issues. He talks about stuff in the context of other films and how it relates to this movie. There's a lot of stuff that he goes through, and once again, you're just not dealing it. You're not looking at that and going, oh, this is stupid. Be screwed up.
This portion, starting at 52 minutes and 20 seconds into part 3 of MauLer's The Last Jedi critique, is truly a masterwork. It's such a condensed sequence of spicy takes that it makes the first bit seem like it's just a filtering method. Like, he's weeding out all the casuals. Now that I've told you that, you can just skip the useless garbage and get to the stuff that matters. And I recommend...
Stop saying that the stuff he went over in the plot summary is useless. Okay? That stuff was kind of needed to add to his points at the end of the video.
You do, because it provides a lot of insight into how MauLer views his craft. But also, we don't have all day, so I'll give you the short version. If there's one thing that can be taken away from this, it's that MauLer sees airtight storytelling as the absolute most important thing to strive for when you're making a movie.
Yes, that is absolutely what you should be striving for. Alright, as much as practical effects, acting, writing, you know, the quality of your writing, as much as that, all of that is important, the main thing that you should be focused on is an airtight story. You should be telling the most consistent, well thought out narrative that you possibly can. That's something that he's been talking about a lot. And not only his videos, but on EFAP and with other people. That's what he thinks is quite possibly the most important thing to have. Okay, and he's even criticized works that are really popular, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, because he believes that there's stuff in the plot that just doesn't make sense, or he thinks isn't really thought out. You know, some of that I do agree with, a lot of that I don't. Alright, once again, there are legitimate points to go against MauLer in the context of stuff that he's discussing. But once again, you guys aren't really, delving deep to that and actually showing what he's actually wrong about. You're just going at stuff that you don't like him saying about stuff that you like.
Say you ever had to make a choice between logical consistency or bolstering some other aspect of the work, you always choose logical consistency. For an example of this, if you say defended The Last Jedi by saying that it has a strong theme of failure and progression, then MauLer would be saying you're making an argumentative misfire, because, in his words, the themes go against the logical consistency. Like some logical consistency had to be sacrificed in order to include it.
What do
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me play this first.
I say to this? Well, most, if not all, plot lines and character developments we just went over for the last 4 hours don't make sense. They weren't supported by the previous films, nor were they well executed. They simply happened. The best example being Poe's. He didn't fail throughout the movie when you actually consider his actions. Finn only failed because the writer decided that a BB unit saw his team.
Nazi!
Things like this forced me to come to the conclusion that
I love
yes,
that wolf
Rian
thing.
Johnson wanted this theme, and he shoehorned events to make it happen, but this makes the writing even worse. He put a theme over the characters, over the plot, to force the characters around the theme, to make you think about
What's
it on
that
your own
wolf doing
personal
there?
level, to ignore how inconsistent the writing is, to appear more intellectual.
Although, he seems to think that a theme is just noticing that a thing happens a lot.
Where does he even say that? Where does he even say that? He did not say that at all, and that's not even something that he's inferenced. He's saying that they're forcing in this theme, even though this doesn't make sense in the context of Star Wars. Like the thing, slavery is bad. Of course, slavery's fucking bad, and they've shown that before in Star Wars and said it plainly. Slavery's fucking bad. But they use that in the context of not something that Star Wars has had to deal with, because they're trying to use it to make the rich people, they're trying to make it seem like, they're on the side of progressive politics and like, oh, all the rich are bad men. All the rich are all the bad men. They are the ones who are doing all these things that allow stuff like this to happen in the real world, and we're going to express it through this fictional world that has never had to deal with this actual type of problem like that, even though, they clearly have their own problems, but we have to put it in the context of our politics. That's what MauLer's talking about. It's that type of shit. Okay? Like, come on, dude.
Which is an odd way of looking at it. Like there's a part in the video where he just completely shoots down the entire idea of interpreting themes by picking a word from a hat. For his example, it was resurrection, and then pointing out all the times that someone or something resurrects during the film. Like, aha, this is equally arbitrary, therefore themes are bullshit.
That's not what he said. He said that you can find a theme in literally anything if you look hard enough. That was his point. I remember that point in the video. Right, and he said that, and he showed that there were several points in the video that actually did support the theme. So you could theoretically say that there is a theme of resurrection. Luke resurrecting the Force within himself. Poe resurrecting. It was something like that. But there were several points in that resurrection theme that he was talking about. So you could theoretically do that. What he was saying was that the themes were stupid. Like the theme of failure. Yes, everyone fails in the movie, but they don't actually show. Well, they show it, but they don't actually make it seem like they have failed at all, because the movie ends on a super high note, even though the resistance is basically dead. Right? The theme contradicts itself in the movie. Luke dies. The resistance is nearly destroyed, down to like 30 or 40 people, maybe even 100 on the Millennium Falcon. And the First Order is conquering the galaxy, so it ends on this super high note in a stupid commercial, even though basically everything that the Resistance was fighting for has been screwed. That's the stuff he was talking about. That's the stuff he was talking about, Eric.
Kylo allows the dark side in him to falter and
here we
resurrect
go.
part of the light. Poe resurrects the part of him that wants to maintain the cause rather than trying to be a hero. Leia is resurrected by the Force.
I don't know. I like the whole failure thing wasn't just people pointing out that characters fail. I thought a pretty big part of it was that Kylo Ren doesn't learn from his mistakes, like the mistakes that he made in The Force Awakens, and just continues to fail while everyone else just moves on. I don't know. It's worth talking about, though. Anyways, the same argument is used to discredit people who say that the visual splendor of The Last Jedi is a selling point. The term style over substance is used.
Yes.
Next up would be the phrase style over substance. This is of course in reference to the idea that you put your eye candy before your writing. Films like Speed Racer, Enter the Void, Transformers, 300, and Avatar are also used as examples in this sort of genre, if you can call it that. Some of those examples are far worse than others, but you get the point. The Last Jedi has a strong pattern of style over substance. Let's go through a few so you know what I'm talking about. Phasma disappears and then reappears in smoke, making no sense, but it looks imposing.
Absolutely
The
makes no
hyperspace
sense.
jump makes no sense in universe, but it looks incredible. The destruction of the bridge on the Radis makes no sense, but it looks impactful. The bomber ships make no sense, but they reference World War II bombers, which looks striking. Phasma falling into a sudden pit of fiery death makes no sense, but it looks intense.
And for
Yeah, like, seriously, all of those are stupid. The bombers make literally no sense in space battles. Why would you rely on such a slow-ass ship to drop bombs when you have Y-wings? Y-wings! Right? Why, and yeah, why does Phasma suddenly disappear and then reappear with more men than she had, with more men, even though the men that was with her basically died when the ship got sheared in half? Why did the freaking ship shearing thing happen to begin with? That whole hyperspace thing was bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Alright, none of that ever works. In fact, I think there was a thing that came out that this was actually something they did in like early Star Wars and like a comic. And it's like, 1 in a million chance of thing they were explaining it in a way as in The Rise of Skywalker. It doesn't actually do that much damage in the comic. It just destroys one ship. And I theoretically think that you could actually make it work, but it would only work on one ship, not dozens. Especially on one that's like damn near the size of a small planet, like the Supremacy. Okay? Those examples make sense that he is showing. These don't make any sense in the sense that they make sense that they are bad. Come on, Jack. You're better than this. Well, Patricia, Eric, whatever.
furthermore, he claims that,
Leave
and along
Joan-
with all this, he
leave your cat
claims
alone.
that stuff like visual splendor doesn't even matter because it's just going to age.
That's not what he said. He said when it comes to writing, it's more important to have your writing stand up than focus on your effects because the effects were used as a big point to just distract the audience and that storytelling is timeless. And yes, storytelling is timeless. We've been telling stories ever since the earliest ages, from cave paintings to film. Okay, we've been telling stories all throughout human history. Storytelling is a big part of the human experience. That's what he was talking about, is that story, you make a really good story, it is timeless. It is remembered. Why do you think Sherlock Holmes is being referenced in freaking Star Trek The Next Generation? Why do you think they talk about the Earth religions in Mass Effect 3? Why do you think they're talking about any of these things in futuristic works? Because stories last a lot. They will last a very long time throughout civilizations and the generations.
And it takes money to generate.
Imagine what the end
Oh,
result
duh,
of
you
this film would have
idiot.
been without the money behind it to fund the actors, the set pieces, and the CGI. These things don't matter in the grand scheme, not even the assets poached from Star Wars as a franchise. They do not matter to the writing. The effects will age. The shots will age. Every choice will age. Writing and storytelling is timeless.
This is honestly just a bewildering way of looking at film.
No, it's not. That's a measurable element of film. Like, you're not watching Journey of the Center of the Earth and going, oh my god, these freaking effects are amazing. You're looking at the effects like, man, they really did not have a lot to work with back in the 50s. Okay? And right now, there are films from the 80s who have effects that are better than any era of film. Like, dude, have you not seen The Thing? The Thing has amazing practical effects. Yes, it hasn't aged as well in certain areas, but it has amazing effects. Basically everything looks realistic as it can get. Even the alien spaceship at the beginning of the movie. Like, the effects age really well, especially the old Star Wars films. Like, all of the old Star Wars films have really damn good practical effects, they have really damn good sets. Like, almost everything is spot on perfect in the original Star Wars films. Like, that's one of the reasons why people really do love the practical effects, is because one, they look more real, and two, they age a lot better compared to CGI. Because yes, as much as I do like, as much as I'm still mixed on the prequels in terms of reception, one of the things I will say is that the practical effects have aged better in those films than the CGI, but the CGI is still a pretty good step up from a lot of CGI at the time and now, but still not as good as practical looking effects. But I know why they used it, which is why I'm really lenient when it comes to the prequels on their CGI. But then you have films like Avatar. That entire film is CGI. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Yes, it has some actual practical sets, but at the end of the day, that film is basically a CGI buffer. That's all it is for. That film was a huge fucking gimmick that took from a lot of freaking stories about the Native Americans in the United States, and that's the whole reason that that film was made. Because James Cameron decided, oh, I want to now care about politics, even though I'm getting close to the end of my fucking career. All right, but Patricia, all right, you're not getting it. You're not getting it.
I know there's a lot of online media critics who really value logical consistency, perhaps a little too much, but I haven't seen anyone else say that it is, like, straight up the only thing that can ever make a film good. And
Because most of them don't, and that's not what MauLer is saying, but he's saying that most of the stuff in the film should rely on a really good script. And this is also a thing that I'm going to go back on that previous point that he was making there with MauLer's, what he was saying. Right? He was saying that most of the stuff is going to age, once again, and but the storytelling will be the thing that people will remember. Okay? Because, yeah, think about it. We're still getting stuff done with VR. Imagine it. They might have VR movies that work like a video game in the near future. Okay, there will be different filmmaking presentation. All right, right. The stuff that we're doing right now with film, how we've been doing with film since basically the beginning with silent films, may be a thing of the past if that type of stuff blows up. Right, most people will see it as like a films that we make now as like a journey to the past. That's what they'll mostly think of. All right, and well, I kind of lost track of what I was going to say there. Let's just keep going.
everything else is just a distraction. You know you can just read a book, right? Like, how can visuals be neutral in a visual medium?
Dr. Shadow, face palm, face slap. What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Go back. We're gonna listen to that
Make a
again.
film good, and everything else is just a distraction. You know you can just read a book, right? Like, how can visuals be neutral in a visual medium?
For the 10th time, that's not what he said. Alright? Like, there's films he's praised for his practical effects. Films that many people praise. He's not saying that you can't have good visuals in a film. That's not what he's saying, dude. Can you please stop? All he is saying is, how about we have good writing, and we can focus on the good practical effects and all the other stuff simultaneously. You can do that, you know, if you have a big enough budget. Granted, if you have lower budget stuff, you'll have to make more concessions with things. You might not be able to get the best actors or the best effects. But if you can't get those things, then just focus on the writing as much as you can. Come on, dude.
And it's an especially strange critique to level at Star Wars of all things, which, as far as I can tell, is a series that is mostly known for its imagery.
But it's using filmmaking techniques that were developed upon years at that point in the 70s. And, you know, the visuals help sell the storytelling. Yes. But the storytelling is the main reason why people really loved it. As much as they loved the action, as much as they loved the feel and the look of the movie, it was the writing and the characters that captivated the people to Star Wars, and that's what basically launched it into a multi-billion-dollar franchise. If you're not, all right, if you're just gonna hand wave Star Wars as being a mostly thing that was known for its visual storytelling instead of its actual storytelling, you're kind of being misleading.
That's why I liked them.
Oh my god, no wonder.
I saw them without any nostalgia goggles, and I thought they were great.
Please tell me the only reason you like the movies wasn't because of the fucking visuals. If it is, that actually explains why you like The Last Jedi a lot.
I had a really good time with the imagery. I thought it looked and felt really nice.
That's
it
not
had an ambience to it, and it also had huge-ass emotional set pieces, and I loved it all. And that's also why I didn't really like The Force Awakens, because it felt a little cold in comparison. It felt very standard. It didn't have the ambiance. And in turn, that's why I liked The Last Jedi, because there are some shots in that movie that are gonna be remembered alongside Luke looking out into the double sunset in A New Hope.
But they ripped off a bunch of shots from the other Star Wars films. The only added benefit is that they got a little bit of extra money, and the fact that they can basically do whatever the fuck they want, right? The way George Lucas had to make the original Star Wars back in the day was he had a lot of budget limitations. He had to film the first half of the movie in the fucking desert. Okay? Shooting the original Star Wars was hell for everybody who worked on that production cycle. It was not fun. Okay? Filmmaking nowadays is almost basically a piece of cake at this point. You can make movies without actually really having many actors on the set at all. Alright? It's very easy to make film now than it was back then. Very easily. Okay? And these shots that you're speaking of, these shots are bullshit. People aren't going to remember the shots because the storytelling is such ass. People remember the shots like the Star Destroyer coming in, chasing after Leia's ship at the beginning of A New Hope. They see that shot and they're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Because they know what that shot represents. It represents the evil empire chasing after the rebellion. And they remember the shot with Luke staring off at the two suns because it shows how much he wants to leave Tatooine and how much he wants to go on an adventure. That type of stuff. You love the context behind the shots. You see the Last Jedi shots and you cringe. Right, like this thing that I'm paused on here with the bombs dropping off. That's so fucking generic. Like, that shot? That is so fucking generic. Right, you literally have so many bomb dropping scenes in war movies having to do with planes. From jets to B-27 bombers, you have that. And then you also have the scene that showed a couple seconds ago with Luke staring at the twin suns in The Last Jedi. They took that from A New Hope. They took that from a fucking New Hope and just shoved it in there. The only reason that shot is there is because Rian Johnson wanted to have that shot with Luke dying, staring at the twin suns. That's the only reason he wanted it. He didn't give a shit about setting it up right at all. Okay? If you're just going to say that you like the movie just because, oh, the shots are going to be remembered, they're not going to be remembered because they're going to look like ass when you pair it up with the context of what's going on in the story. Which is already piss poor because of what The Force Awakens did. At least you'll say that The Force Awakens is bad. But you're not going to level the same fucking criticisms of The Last Jedi.
Like, there's just so much emotional content in some of the events that happen in that movie, some of the images that are shown on screen.
Once again, heroic sacrifice, woohoo. Yeah, it's not like Star Wars hasn't had that type of shit before.
And that might explain why I didn't mind so much that the bombers were designed impractically. But here's the skinny. MauLer has heard all of this. In a critique of The Last Jedi Part 3, MauLer implies that argument and arguments like it are an attempt to shield the film from criticism. Like,
because it is. Just deflecting that, oh, the visuals look neat, or I like how this stuff looked. It is a deflection. Okay, once again, when you're writing a story, the main thing you want to do is tell a good story. You need to make it work. You don't need to make it look like ass. You don't need to make it sound like ass. Come on, dude.
He makes up a hypothetical episode 9 where
And it
like
was
everything
hilarious.
is like completely off the wall. Like
Yes.
all the threads are dropped. It's hilarious, honestly.
Alright, it's time once and for all to destroy this argument.
this is pretty
What if the
funny.
9th episode of the series opens with Luke saying, "The Sith must end too. I totally forgot. Sorry, lol. I'm sleepy, I guess." And he jumps, wearing only a nappy, into space. He chops every last Death Star, Star Destroyer, etc. in half
Multiple
and
Death
kicks the
Stars.
supremacy into a local sun. He then stands on the sun and says, "Kylo, you must return to the Jedi because they are actually okay and really cool." And so Kylo does. Would that be something you consider bad? Because if you did, if you said to me that this is terrible writing, do you know what I'd say back to you? You don't search for logic in a Star Wars movie. A movie full of laser weapons, noisy explosions in space, and little Muppets running around. You need to remember that this is a movie first with visual metaphor and not a documentary about real things happening in space.
Yes. You know why he said that? You know why he said that? Because people like freaking I Hate Everything. Now, much respect to I Hate Everything because he recently got into a discussion with MauLer about Star Wars in Episode 9 and how he actually had a good discussion with MauLer about the issues. Like you and Jack Saint refused to do because you're a bunch of pussies. But it was pointing out that discussion where where people like the Star Wars critics would look at what was happening last Jedi and say, this makes no fucking sense. But then they would deflect, yeah, but Star Wars has never made sense. But you're like, but yes, it did. It always made sense to a point, okay? There's this little thing called suspension of disbelief. I can suspend my disbelief on some minor details. But when it comes to the major details of the world that have never been broken, and you start breaking them like The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens did, then when you point that out, and apparently people just get pissed off because, oh, you can't actually say that because that ruins our narrative. Okay, like that's what he was talking about. People who were hand waving criticism of episode 8 with that exact excuse, saying that you don't search for logic in a Star Wars movie. A movie full of laser weapons, noisy explosions in space, and little Muppets running around. You need to remember that this is a movie first with visual metaphor and is not a documentary about real things happening in space. Guess what? Neither is Mass Effect, neither is Star Trek. Alright, these are all hypothetical things. But if you make it work within its own context, then it's a good work. Come on, man.
And really, this just speaks to MauLer's utter narrow-mindedness when it
Narrow-mindedness. You don't say. You don't say that about yourself. You, Eric. Blah, blah, blah. I keep mixing Eric and Patricia together. Oh no. If anybody watches this far in and you make any Eric / Jack Saint fan art, I will murder you.
comes to art. Like, the only way a film can be good or bad is based on how airtight the script is, and if you imply that there are other ways to judge a film, then he says you just don't have standards at all.
Where the fuck does he say that? Once again, where? Where does he fucking say anything about that? He's not saying that you can't have a film based solely on the writing. Like, he's talked about film that he likes, despite the fact that the writing is poor. The dude likes Batman and Robin. The thing widely considered to be the thing that nearly killed Batman on the big screen. He likes that movie. There are films that he likes that does not have good writing. Right? He doesn't just look at the writing when he's judging film, dude. There are films he likes, once again, that don't have great stories that he admits to. Okay? Alright? If you want evidence, look at any of the streams, any of the endless streams on EFAP where he's talking about this shit.
Hi, MauLer, and probably Wolf and Rags too.
Speaking of Rags, you guys bitched out of a discussion because you apparently don't like him for some reason. I don't know why. You both acted like a bunch of smug assholes about it. So, yeah, you keep calling out Wolf and Rags, but then you're like, no, I don't want to enter a discussion with all three of you here. Guess what? There are people who come on 5-1 on an EFAP before. 5-1 in stream, responding to one of their videos at times, multiple times. And yet you want to whine about Rags. You want to whine about us not actually trying to represent other people's points fairly. Fuck you. Fuck you.
If you're watching this, then I have a couple of film recommendations that I'd like to give you, because while I'd like to have a discussion about these things, I do not want to do it exclusively in reference to The Last Jedi. I hope you understand. First on the docket is a film called Funny Games. Be sure to get the American version. Like, usually remakes are worse, but this is a director remaking his own work and actually improving on it in a lot of ways. Second is a film called Sorry to Bother You. It came out last year now. And the
That one
last
looks
film
so
I'd like you to
boring.
check out is called Under the Skin. Yes, I am in fact giving you homework. But if you want to, you can give us some film recommendations too, if you like. There's any 3 movies that you think are underrated that we haven't seen that would help your points. If I come onto EFAP and it turns out you haven't seen any of these, I'm just gonna step right the fuck back out. Sorry. I'm also gonna step out if Rags is there.
Yeah, this man totally wants a discussion. But he basically says if you have your show run as normal when having me and Jack on, I'm gonna walk the fuck out. And you're also giving them demands in terms of the films that you want them to check out. Yeah, no, you don't just make demands when you want to have a debate. All right, like, you could have had an actually big thing going on. You could enter neutral zones with other people helping you on your side and debated the issues. Alright, Major Lee fucking came on, dude. Like, the guy who is famously calling people insane for not liking The Last Jedi. You could have done something with that. You could have done something, but you don't want to because you hate Rags, and for some reason you want to give people homework. Seems kind of stupid to me. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here because I know I think this is the last Eric section. So, no more of that face for a good little while. And now I only have 13:59 left, and the next video that I will do on this issue will be the last thing I will do for this video because I am tired of responding to this video because it's what they accuse MauLer of being, is repetitive and he's not saying anything. That's what you people are doing. That's what you are doing. That's what you were doing, Eric. For the most part, though, you did have some points where you actually came out looking good. And Jack hasn't made really much of anything. He hasn't made much of any type of good points that make him look good. And it's quite honestly really pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Like, when you've been on YouTube for as long as however long you two have been on, you would think that doing stuff like this, you would be more privileged to not do that. You would be, trying to make sure you had everything right before you jump on. But no, instead you wanted to jump on with your closed-minded, narrow bullshit view about MauLer, about EFAP, about people who don't like The Last Jedi because apparently that film can't be touched, and just a lot of bullshit. Just a lot of bullshit about this, alright? And it's not to say that, EFAP and MauLer is completely immune for criticism, alright? There's stuff, like I said, you can fairly judge him on. Alright, especially with the last few things that, EFAP has talked about, like Avatar The Last Airbender, and apparently even Doom Eternal, because Rags wants to act like a little bitch about it. But come on, dude. What you are saying here is not helping anybody out in terms of discussions. Nothing that I've seen from you or Jack in this video has actually helped to make you look good or make any of your arguments sound even remotely, palpable. Okay, you guys really need to do some soul searching because this stuff is bullshit. Goodness. Alright, so thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully I'll have a couple more videos out pretty soon. I'll see you guys later. Don't die. Bye-bye.